Hey, yeah, it's Paige. Hey, I've had a lot of people ask me about how I do corn. And so I just thought I would take a second and go through this with you guys. So I have some that I've already took the husk off over here. And basically, whenever I start to husk corn, I just split the top and pull down the side. And then get as much of the silk as I can in the hand and pull that. And now I always have a little bucket off to the side and I just throw it over into that bucket. So as you can see, there's still a lot of silk that's kind of hanging on there. If you try to get this with all of your hand, it's not going to come off. So one thing that helps to make it really quick is I just take a really stiff brush and wash that cob downways like this so that I get a good majority of that silk off, because prep in this is going to save you a ton of time. So once that's finished, so you can see that I've got all of these over here. You can see most of that silk came off with that brush. Then we can go take a little stroll over here and you can see my fancy setup for videoing is my coffee cup and handy dandy box. But when I'm in the kitchen getting ready to can and freeze for the season, I am not worried about my kitchen. As you can see, it is set up for production mode. So with this, for some of you new beginners in canning out there, this is a solid choice. I would highly recommend that you get the Ball Blue Book of Canning. I am a huge advocate of Ball. And I find a lot of my canning supplies at my local Ace Hardware. So they have been extremely good to me there. And Target also has a good choice whenever you're looking for canning supplies. Now this year, with the whole COVID situation and everything, a whole lot of people are getting more into canning and gardening, which is, I think, super great. So you can see that I've had some of my cobs that I've already started cutting off the kernels, and I'm just gonna take this for a second and see if I can get this to where you can see how I generally cut the kernels off. Now I've got to find something that I can stand this up on so that you can see over into this bowl. So give me just a second here and see if I can get something set up here. Because as you can see, I literally am doing this just on the fly. So let's see if that's gonna work. And there. So I take the cob, stand it up in the bowl, and I do the knife. And I prefer the knife just simply because I can do it very quick, very easy. I have a very sharp set of knives, and this gets me done in a hurry whenever I'm doing the corn. Now, when you're doing this, it does take some time. Everybody goes, oh, you know, hey, she's at home, she does this, she does that. No, I'm the president of our company. I work full-time, sometimes 8, 12, 16-hour days. Just this time, I have got great people who I depend on to run their company, and does a great job for us and helps us out. But I do work full-time. We are a family of 5. We've got teenagers. We're a very busy household, 3 dogs, 2 cats, you name it, we're still going. So I'll take you over here. You can see I just cut that up, and then I always have a little bucket, and I just throw all of my silks, all of my cobs and everything into this bucket, so that when I'm done with it, I can just take it out to the backyard. And I have a little kind of ditch area there. I throw that in. And you know, it just adds to the composting. So another kind of cool tool that you can use if you're not into the whole knife thing is this handy dandy thing. Now, I tried this a couple of times. It's not for me, just simply because I just don't work well with it. Some people do like to take, you know, it's easier instead of working in a big bowl like that to take a cooking sheet. This is just a standard old baking sheet, and you can put this tool on there and you just push down and it will shred that right off of the cob. What I don't like is that there's still a whole bunch of kernels on there. So you could probably grip that a little tighter and get a little better action out of it. But for me, this just leaves too much. I just can't get it right. So, and then I also do what's called milking the cob because I like more of the thickness of that corn. And that's simply take the back of your knife, turn it over, and rake it up and down that cob so that you get all of that goodness of those kernels out of there. So you can see it kind of has a little bit more of a milkier substance to it. So you can see right there. And it's between a whole kernel and a milk. And so let me let the pup in. Come on, Miley. Good boy. So we are a busy household with the canning. Yeah. So with the canning, cutting off the kernels of the corn, I have just a full prep area. I've already got my glasses. They're clean from the dishwasher, set up, ready to go. One key thing that you're always going to want when you're canning is hot water. And then I use a pressure canner. A lot of people prefer boiling bath canner, and that's fine, whatever works for you. But pressure canner for me is time, and quick time. Now, Ball also has a great canning kit that comes with the jar lifters, and you can see this kind of wand that goes down into your jars so that you can get all your bubbles out. And there's the lid to the pressure canner. Don't be afraid of these. I mean, you do need to follow the instructions of them, but they will save you tons of time. Now I already have my lids. Those are all washed up. As you can see, like I said, my kitchen and my dining room table is in production mode. Now here is a set that I have just finished yesterday. And you can see we're gonna have so much goodness. There's something about having this in the middle of the winter that just makes me feel good when my family is able to open this up and we have a nice meal. So I've got some poblanos and jalapenos, and you can see the pickling and canning salt. There is some cabbages, and I'm going to be making sauerkraut a little later. And check this out. These are some of the most beautiful tomatoes I think I have ever had to can with. I mean, they're just gorgeous. Look at those things. Big, right? Plump and juicy. So we're going to make some tomato ketchup and some whole tomatoes this week as well. So just one thing to keep in mind. When you're busy, you don't have to do all of this at one time. Now, it does make it easy if you have kind of some production going on and you can finish it up and get it done quickly. But doing it in processes and in small batches, if you're working full time, you know, sometimes it's hard to even think about getting home to get a dinner on the table, much less, hey, I'm going to add this to my schedule, my routine. But it is doable. It is doable, and it's very satisfying whenever you know that you've been able to put this back. So what you saw across the way there in the box, that was 10 jars of corn that I have already done. I froze 50 ears on the cob in the husk yesterday, and so that's going to be yummy. And then I'm going to go back. Now these are the bags of corn that I get. Now I get this from Jackson's Farm out on top of Dayton Mountain, and they are phenomenal. I can't say enough. This is probably some of the best corn and tomatoes that I've ever had when I've been doing this. But that bag says cabbage on it, but you can see, now I got 2 of these huge bags. You can see how big they are. There's my kitchen cabinet. And there's a couple bushels probably in there. There's probably about 50 plus ears to a bag. So that's a lot of husking. If you have people in your household that can help you, then grab them and have them start husking. You know, just get your production line set up. Husking there, wash and clean there, and then straight over to your cutting area. And then as soon as this is cut in, we will put water in here and just kind of coat this so it has a nice milkiness to it. And then we'll start packaging it up into the jars with boiling water, a half teaspoon of salt, for the smaller jars, and we'll get it ready to go in that canner. So hopefully I'll be able to do another video for you that shows the canner process and what you can, you know, for the most part, I follow, here's the directions. This is what I follow. And you can see there are tons and tons and tons and tons of recipes and steps of showing you what you need for canning and what you need to do. But check your local Ace Hardware, check Target, grab one of these Ball Blue books. There is tons of information online that can help you start your canning process. But trust me, it is worth it. It is worthwhile. You know where the vegetables are coming from, and you have a quality ingredient in the end of the day and through the winter. God bless, and we'll catch up soon. Thanks. Okay, here we go, round 2. So we have got the corn prepared, and you can kind of see down in here, it's a little bit of that milkiness that I was talking about. Hopefully you can see that. I'll try to lift it up, but we'll see. We're putting this now in the jar, and to put in the jars, let me just move that back a little. You can see what I'm doing here. So I've got just the regular canning jar. I use the funnel to be able to put these in, because these are the narrow. Sometimes with the wide mouth, you can get into those easier, but I've got most of these standard canning jars, and so I just use the funnel. So I just scoop up and fill my jar. That's all that I have to do. Now you're gonna leave about an inch to a half inch of headspace in there. And basically what that means is that you just need to leave where this bottom line is. Here, if you can see that, that bottom line, I usually end my whatever I'm filling the jars with at that line, just to make sure that I've got enough room in there for it to do what it needs to do whenever it's processed. So I'm gonna keep filling these up until I get my jars full. Now I have my jars, they're clean, they're hot, they're ready to go. So I'm filling those right away. And if you get just a little too much in there, sometimes I'll just use my fingers or a spoon and pack that down. And hands are clean, obviously. But we're gonna just continue packaging here until we get down to the end of this. Now this is a whole kernel. This is more whole kernel. I didn't put quite as much water into my bowl as I traditionally do whenever I'm making something a little bit closer to cream style corn. But this is a little bit more of the whole kernel style. And I kind of do both, and you'll be able to see. I'll show you a few of these jars whenever I get this in here and done. So you can see kind of where that milkiness is at. Now the rest of this I'm going to be adding boiling water to, so we'll go through that in just a moment. But let me see if I've got enough to make one more here, otherwise this will go in towards dinner tonight. I don't think I'm going to have quite enough for that, but we're going to put it over in there anyway. And set this aside so that you can see what else is there. Now I've talked about the production in your kitchen. You know, again, my kitchen, listen, my kitchen in my house, this is lived in, this is us, this is who we are, and we just run through it. But you may hear dogs barking in the background, and you've heard me talk about getting my supplies and things like that at Ace Hardware, at Target, and at I Like Ball. I don't get paid for any of this. Those are just faithful products that I found and I've used time and time and time and over and over and over again. So in this, you're going to take about a half teaspoon of salt. Now salt acts as, you know, somewhat of your preservative and helps to sustain the life of your product in here. So we're just going to put a half teaspoon in each one of these. No big deal. Just takes a little bit of time to get it on through there. There we go. Done and done. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I've got just a little bit of a damp towel, and I'm going to wipe the tops of these lids just to make sure that I haven't gotten anything on there that's going to interrupt my jar's sealing. And that's especially important because If your jars don't seal, then you have lost all of this time, food, energy, and effort in not getting your product. It's going to spoil, and you're going to get sick if you eat it. So that would not be any fun. So let me grab the boiling water now. Bring that over. I've got nice hot boiling water here. And sorry, I know this is going to sound probably really loud since I'm working off of my AirPods. So I just use the same funnel, and I fill my jars up until they're about that lower band level, and just keep going through. And seriously, I mean, it's just like a production. You just keep filling and filling and filling until you get to that point to where, you know, you need to leave that headspace in your jars so that they process the right way. And this is not rocket science. I mean, literally anybody can do this. That, again, going back to that All Blue Book videos online, you can see those. There's many of them that'll take you, that's much better than I am. They have better shortcuts. This is what works for me, works very quickly. Like I said, I am a working mom and wife, and this just, I have, whenever I was a younger girl in the mountains of Tennessee, I would help some of the ladies on the mountain, and they taught me how to can and bring in produce from their gardens, and that was a valuable thing to me. I didn't realize it as much, you know, whenever I was a teenager and having to husk corn and shell beans and what have you. But, you know, the value that I have found in that as I've matured and gotten older, just totally grateful for those ladies and their patience and the time that they took with me. So now those are all done. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna move this over to the side, and we're gonna bring in our lids, and let me just move this over here out of the way. So in here I have the lids, and you can see the steam coming off of that. These are hot, so that's where this little handy tool, and this is found in that ball package, the starter kit. We'll pick these lids up and place them up on the jars without burning my fingers, hopefully. So you can see that it's just a great little tool, and you just place those on where they're going to fit securely on your jars. So just keep putting those on, working your way through that. And I have used this for a few years. You know, for me, we were kind of busy founding our company and stuff, so I quit canning for a couple of years, and just was so busy with our company and kids and life, and you know, I really missed it. There's something about this that just is very satisfying for me, and quite frankly makes me happy. So, you know, if this is grudge work for you, then hey, I get it. You know, it is work. There's a lot to this. So now we're just gonna take the bands and secure those lids. And I have all of these I have washed. I just put them through my dishwasher and wash them so that they're ready to go nice and clean. That's the big thing whenever you're dealing with your food, is you want to make sure that everything stays nice and clean. And because you obviously don't want to get sick or get anyone else sick. And so we're going to move right through this. This one's taking me some time, huh? So hang tight for a minute and get this one done. And then we're gonna move right over to putting this into our pressure canner. And for some of you who are intimidated by the pressure canner, yeah, there's, you gotta respect those things, but they will save you a ton of time. Some people prefer the boiling water bath canner. You can do either one. That is entirely up to you and your comfort level. But if you have the opportunity and you're short on time, I highly recommend the pressure canner. So there you have it. So you've seen from start to finish the setup of how I bring into production the canning my corn. So I will come back to you in a bit with the pressure canner and how we get that started. Hey y'all, I'm Paige, and just coming back, we have gone through how you get your corn, how you husk your corn, clean your corn, scrape the cob, get it ready, and get it packaged into jars. So now we're looking at the pressure canner, and there's a whole lot of people that have come to me and asked, hey, how do I do this? Or what do you do in this case, or what? So I just wanted to do these quick videos because I have a lot of friends that have asked for this, and I thought maybe this would be easier to show them. A lot of people, due to COVID, put more gardens in this year. They're looking at preserving more of their food and their harvest, and so this is a great way of doing it. But I prefer a pressure canner. A lot of people use the boiling water bath. Perfectly fine. Either method works. Just follow the steps and do it for the period of time that you need, because nobody wants a good dose of botulism. So we have the pressure canner, and let me just show you inside here real quick. So you can see I've got the jars that we packed, and mine is a double level. So what I don't want to happen is my jars down below to be touching each other, and that just kind of keeps them from, breaking while they're processing. You can see I have got water down in, and I turn this on just a little bit before I'm ready to put jars in, so the water starts heating up and gets nice and warm, not hot, not boiling. It just starts getting warmed up. But I'm going to rearrange here so you can see. I'm going to fasten the lid back on, and let me set this back over here because that lid is heavy and it takes 2 hands to grab that baby. All right, so this is the pressure canner lid. You can see the valve there. This is where I'm going to put the weight on, and this little guy, when the pressure starts to build, that's going to pop up. You're going to see steam come from there a lot of times, and that's just making sure that the pressure stays regulated. Now on the pressure canner, mine has an indicator on it. This is an older pressure canner, and I love it. And this is, I broke the handle this time, getting the lid off, so shame on me. I had to call Presto and get that done. You can hear the dogs barking in the background because this is our house, and you can tell I'm just filming. So I'm gonna secure that lid on all the way, and I'm gonna give it a minute to let the lid, because this has been heating up, I'm gonna let the lid get a little bit warm, and that'll make it easier for me to close, because I just put a new gasket on this, and it's a little bit more difficult to close than what it normally is, but it needed a new gasket for safety. And while we're waiting for that to heat up, this is the weight. This is going to go back here on the steam area that starts to come out when the pressure builds. You're going to want to see that steam coming out of there for about 8 to 10 minutes before you put this on. So when that pressure comes up and that steam is blowing, then this is going to probably pop up. If it doesn't, that's okay. You put the weight on here, and that's what brings your pressure up inside the pressure canner. So we're going to process those jars at about 10 pounds of pressure for about 55 minutes. Those are pints and not quarts. Quarts you're gonna do probably about an hour and a half or so. But that start to finish, I mean, for that much time is not a lot. And of course, I can't get my lid to secure on. So these are, the pressure canners are one things that you definitely want the lid secured on the way that it should be. And it just needs to heat up a little bit longer so that it can get on there. But anyway, let me show you the valve. So there's the valve, and we're gonna process, that's 10 pounds right there. So, and if you have the Ball Blue Book or look it up anywhere online, you're gonna be able to see 10 pounds for about 55 minutes is gonna be the best estimate. But that in a nutshell, my friends, whenever I get my lid, so you can see here, it shows open and closed. It's only halfway in between. I'm gonna let that lid continue to heat up, and as soon as that gasket heats up, it's gonna let me snap that on there. But your handles, there's another indicator here. Your handle down here has an indicator, and you're gonna want your upper handle perfectly lined up between those two. Now, most modern day canners, they have, you know, that information and everything on them as well. Like I said, this is an older one, but I have done a lot of canning with this, and it's got sentimental value to me as well. So all in, that is in a nutshell how you process corn. You literally can go through the same exact steps when it comes to green beans or any other thing that you're looking to can. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that it helped a lot of you. Friends, you know, if you've got a garden or you have access, like I didn't grow that corn, there's a whole lot of corn in there, but if you've got access to it, put it to good use and do small batches at a time. If you're working, if you have a full schedule, just do small batches at a time. It's so rewarding in the winter to be able to open those. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be doing more corn. I'm going to be doing green beans, cabbage for sauerkraut, and I'm canning tomatoes as well. But it's just something that makes me happy and makes me feel good that I'm doing well for my family. And I also get to wear my fun little retro aprons that make me extremely happy. And I bought this one at a yard sale about 3 years ago for $5. Yeah, happy. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I will chat with you soon. Thanks. So we're looking here at the pressure canner. See, when the lid heated up, I actually had to coat the gasket with a little bit of oil on it. But now you can see the lid is firmly on there. And you can see that the handle lines up. And you can start to see the steam is starting to come out. So that's the one thing that we want to start looking for whenever we're canning, is we want a solid, good, steady stream of steam coming out for about 8 to 10 minutes before we put that weight on there. Because what you want is you want that to be at a steady temperature, so as soon as you drop that weight on, you're going to be able to see that gauge start to rise almost immediately. But I'm looking here and kind of expecting to have the little pressure valve pop up in a minute. It may or it may not. But we're going to let that steam here for just a few. It's been going for a little bit, but we're gonna let it get a little bit more. It's kind of cool to watch. For some reason, it kind of fascinates me. Got a little bit of steam coming out of that release valve. Let's see if it's gonna pop up here. We're just gonna watch it. As you can see, it's kind of rising a little bit. And that's perfectly normal. Everything you see is going on. Oh, there you go. So it's kind of cool the way that it all comes about and happens. I mean, to think about how the way these things are built, to be able to put your food in there and to pressurize and can, and in a lot of fascinating ways. I know I was talking with kind of an Amish friend, or acquaintance I should say, many years ago, and have been interested in the fermentation process of preserving food as well. So I think I'm going to explore that a little bit more this year. But we've got a good steady stream going there, and you can see that little valve start to bobble around a little bit, and sooner or later you'll hear a there you go, boop sound, and that means that steam is building up pressure in there, and we should be about good to put that weight on. So, and you can hear it; it'll start making a little noise. All of those things are perfectly normal whenever you hear that. That's just the way that the canner starts to build the pressure up, and it's going to make some of the noise. So you can hear that hissing sound. So let's go ahead and let's put our weight on. And you want to be careful when you do that, because that is hot steam that's coming up through there, and you know, it can get you a little bit. So, you know, if you're not feeling confident or comfortable with it, that you can drop that on. I mean, I've been doing it on this one for so many years. I'm comfortable with it, but just put on a glove, or use a towel or something just to deflect that steam from you for a little bit. And then here in just a few, we'll start to see that gauge start to rise. It's already starting there. Now, on these pressure cookers, whenever you start getting them under pressure, about once a year, unfortunately I haven't, but you're going to want to have your gauge tested. Most of the time you can take these to your local fire department and they can do the pressure testing of gauges for you. But with this one, you can see it's starting to rise up, and the pressure is starting to rise there. The one thing that you want to keep in mind, when these things start to get under pressure, you do not open them. You do not attempt to open them. Don't even try it, because if for some reason you were able to get this lid off, the possibilities of you getting a very terrible scalding is very high. So whenever these things start to heat up, they're made for you to leave them alone. And if they start to get, if the gauge starts to get over the caution, turn your heat off. Start tapping the back of that in order to let some of the steam out. See, you can hear the steam. And I'm not going to do that very much, because we obviously want it to rise up to about that 10 pounds of pressure. And I'm going to, as soon as we get to the 10 pounds of pressure, I'm going to set my timer at that point in time for the 55 minutes. Because if I set it beforehand, as it comes up, it's not going to be under that pressure and maintaining the temperature of where I need it to, in order to make sure we have any bacterias or anything of that nature. We want to make sure all of that stuff is killed out. Again, because nobody wants a good dose of botulism for dinner. But we'll continue to watch this gauge and let it rise. It'll take for a few minutes. Now that 10 pounds of pressure, you can see it says it's 240 degrees. So 240 degrees Fahrenheit inside that canner is fairly hot, and you're under 10 pounds of pressure. So if you tried to twist that lid off and actually succeeded, the possibility of that thing blowing up in your face is strong. But for the most part, these things are designed not to let you into them until pressure is completely off. And that means that the gauge has gone all the way back down to 0. You've let it rest, you've taken off the toggle off the back, and that pressure is completely relieved from that pot. And generally, sometimes it'll want you to wait until that pot is cooled down, just that canner's cooled down a little bit, before you pop that lid off, because you don't want that steam just immediately coming up into your face. But I do love the pressure canner method of cooking, just simply because it is very fast. It's very convenient. If you can look at that, I mean, I have, how many jars did I have in there? That'll fit 12 jars, 12 of the pints. So I think I've got 10 in there currently. So 10 jars in 55 minutes, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal to me. And then we have yumminess all winter long. And there's so much more that you can do inside the pressure canner. I mean, it doesn't have to be just for canning. There's other things that you can cook for meats and things like that as well. But for the most part, I've always just used mine for canning and jars and things of that nature. But you can see that gauge is still starting to climb up there. It takes a few minutes for it to build that pressure. And that's fine. Everything that you're seeing there is perfectly normal. Now, whenever I start to do it, when I get my jars ready, I have the water already in the bottom of the canner, because you definitely do not want those things drying out during your canning process. That is a big no-no, and will probably bust all of your jars that's down in there and possibly ruin your canner. But so I have my water that comes to, I'd say, about here, and with that, I'd say that's probably about 3 quarts of water that I put in there. Just kind of eyeball it. I don't have any specific, measurement that I put in, but then I line that in with the jars and secure my lid on and get it started. But as the pressure's coming up, I put this all the way on high so that it brings it up to pressure, and then once it gets to pressure, then I start to decrease my heat, because I want it to stay at about that 10 pounds of pressure. I don't want it going up to 15, definitely don't want it going into the 20 range. So you need to stabilize your heat once you get it to the pound of pressure that you're looking for. So that means just reducing your heat and letting it do its thing. So once we get up to 10 pounds, I'm going to set my timer for 55 minutes, and then we're going to be just waiting for those to process and come back down to 0. Once all of that is done, then you'll have these yummy jars full of, this is corn, so yummy jars full of corn. So if you want to hang in and watch it, we've got just a couple more pounds there to get to the 10 pounds. And we'll set our timer, decrease our heat, and then it should stabilize. It will be about 55 minutes in the process, and then another few, I guess 10, 15, maybe a little bit longer on letting the pressure come down. And then we would be able to take the lid off and get the jars out. And then voila, you have your canned jars all ready to go. And so you want to set your jars out onto a surface that you don't have to move them for a little while, because what you want to do is you want those lids to start sealing, and you'll hear them pop. When they seal up, you will be somewhere in the house and you'll hear pop, and it's your jars sealing tight, and you want a good tight seal on your jars. So now we're looking at about that 10 pounds of pressure you can see there. It's right there on the needle just about. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll give it just a couple more seconds here, and then looks like we're about straight on, and I'm going to just go ahead and start reducing that heat. So I'm just going to turn it down here about medium low, so that it continues to hold the pressure at 10 pounds where I want it, but it's not getting too far down, and it's not going too much further than that. But 55 minutes, guys. I will see if I can come back to you on video and get those jars sealing up as we start to take them out. But have a blessed afternoon. So here we are back again, and our jars have finished processing. So we're going to take this handy dandy jar lifter. Again, that comes in that ball pack that we've talked about, and we're just going to start setting these babies out so that they can start sealing, and you may start to hear them pop just as soon as you start to set them out. And that's those lids sealing up nice and tight, which is exactly what we want to happen. So we're just going to keep setting them out. And I usually just like to set them out on my countertop. I've got stone countertops, and they can take the heat. So if you don't, oh, see, there went one. You can hear them popping as soon as those lids start sealing. Whenever they come out into the cooler air from the canner, and that's exactly what we want to start happening. So we're just gonna keep grabbing here. Get these things, get these things out. I'm going to leave them here in this position overnight. So it's a little later in the day here. And that way they can seal up as they need to. And I usually leave a little bit of space in between my jars, just because that helps them to cool down, helps them to seal, and gets the air flowing there in between them. So there you have it. That is our set of corn that we've canned today. And it's taken a little bit of time, but you know what? It's so worth it. Every second is worth it. And whenever you crack one of these open in the middle of winter, you're going to be thankful. Anyway, thankful for you. Enjoy. I hope that you guys have found some of the information helpful. At least I've had a little fun, and maybe friends, you know, the ones you guys have asked me the questions, maybe this has helped you a little bit too. So, chat with you later. Bye.